We're getting this reaction from J.D. Vance in. He writes on X, Joe Biden has been the worst president in my lifetime, and Kamala Harris has been right there with him every step of the way. Over the last 4 years, she co-signed Biden's open border and green scam policies that drove up the cost of housing and groceries. She owns all of these failures, and she lied for nearly 4 years about Biden's mental capacity, saddling a nation with a president who can't do the job. President Trump and I are ready to save America. Who's ever at the top of the Democratic ticket? Sandra, bring it on. He closes out.
Gosh, makes you wonder what a possible VP debate would look like with Vance and Kamala Harris. Fox News chief political analyst Brit Hume is joining us now. Brit, thank you very much for jumping in and joining the coverage. Your thoughts?
Glad to do it. Well, I think we're this was forecast, I think, and when the history of this is written, people will look back to the debate and say that from that moment on, this was inevitable, that he had to get out. He stubbornly hung on for a while, but the pressure was enormous. The odds were against him. He is, after all, old and feeble. Surely even the people closest to him recognize that, and so here we are.
So the vice presidential debate is set for September the 25th, but we don't know who's going to be in it on the Democratic side at this point. What do you think about the idea that the torch gets passed to Kamala, or Democrats rising up and saying, whoa, whoa, whoa? Because Obama said this in a statement, along with his wife, Michelle Obama, said that we trust that the Democratic Party will execute a robust process that will lead to a very strong nominee. They didn't say we back Kamala Harris. So do you think, Brett, that in the days ahead, we're going to see a lot of Democrats saying, wait a second, you might want to just pass the torch to Kamala Harris, but there's a lot of other people out there who might do better?
Well, it's possible that will happen, and a lot of Democrats may think that. But look at it this way: we don't. Who is going now to emerge and come out and say, "No, I don't want Kamala Harris to be the nominee. I'm running against her. I'm running against a woman who is the sitting vice president of the United States, who does, after all, have behind her the force of the votes that were for the Biden-Harris ticket." And
well, if Ted Kennedy were still around, he might do it.
Well, he might, but he's not, and RFK is around, and he's not a factor in this. So RFK Jr. I think it's a good question. Who will step forward to challenge her? And of course, if someone does, then it's Katie bar the door, because on paper, at least, John, I think we all can agree that the nomination now is in the hands of a cadre of thousands of delegates chosen to support Joe Biden. That's why they're in it. They're Biden delegates. He's endorsed her. Are they going to go against the candidate that he endorsed? Maybe, but it seems to me that she really does have a leg up here, and I think an awful lot of potential candidates will shy away because of that.
Brett, you have to wonder what the phone calls and the meetings and the gatherings are. You got to wonder. I mean, there's been big questions leading up to this decision and this announcement from the president. You know, who is in charge and who is in his inner circle, and those that are outside of it, what are they going to do? You know, you've got the president endorsing Kamala Harris very publicly in this statement. And as we were just noting, some of these governors who are now responding, who hadn't initially called for him to drop out of the race, they're stepping in to talk about Biden's legacy without even, endorsing Kamala Harris. So, the next few days, next hours, I should say, you can only imagine the conversations that are being had.
Yeah, I think there are probably a lot of conversations among people who might like to run as to whether it would be good for them to do so in this cycle. It appears that Donald Trump and the Republicans have a big head of steam. I have my doubts about that myself, but I'm sure that's the way it looks to these Democrats. And they've got a candidate, who's endorsed by the sitting president, who was elected to be vice president. That means to be one heartbeat away from the presidency. I just think it's a tough call, close call, as to whether you want to challenge her in a party that is so devoted to the rights of minorities and to the promotion of minorities. When Joe Biden starts talking about his achievements, he lists the minority candidates that he has nominated, and he always lists her promotion to vice president, her being on the ticket with him as one of his real achievements. So I think it creates a certain weight in her favor that anybody who wants to challenge for this job has got to keep in mind before they decide that.
So we mentioned it a minute ago, but we've made a graphic out of it now so everyone at home can read along with it. This is J.D. Vance on Kamala Harris and her potential to become the nominee, and a real indication of what the Trump campaign will bring up should she become the nominee. Vance writes, quote, "Joe Biden has been the worst president in my lifetime, and Kamala Harris has been right there with him every step of the way. Over the last 4 years, she co-signed Biden's open border and green scam policies that drove up the cost of housing and groceries. She owns all of these failures, and she lied for nearly 4 years about Biden's mental capacity, saddling the nation with a president who cannot do the job. President Trump and I are ready to save America. Whoever is at the top of the Democrat ticket, bring it on." Well, at least we have a pretty clear idea of what the line of attack is going to be, Brit.
Well, yeah, and I think that will be the line of attack, and it has some basis in fact. But she does one thing, and that is she gets the age issue off the table, which was one of the strongest points against the sitting president. So she brings in a fresh face. She brings new hope to demoralized Democrats. They're going to be enthusiastic about her, a woman, an African, or at least a person of color, and all of that feeds into that. So she has a shot. And look, the thing we have to keep in mind as we assess this, I mean, you can argue that a great many Americans think she's a giggling idiot. There's no doubt about that. And her early public appearances as vice president were not reassuring. She's been less visible since, and she's been a spokesperson on the abortion issue, which is something that I guess has helped the Democrats. But the thing I think that helps the Democrats more than anything else is that for all of the glorification of Donald Trump in the past week, he remains a strikingly unpopular candidate. His approval ratings and favorability ratings have almost never bumped up above 50%. He is a vulnerable candidate, and an awful lot of Americans resist him. And if the Democrats can make a credible case for Kamala Harris or whoever's the nominee, they've got a real shot at winning this election. I wouldn't bet on them necessarily, but that's how I see it.
Gosh, it's like a fire hose, the reaction coming in right now, as you can imagine, Brit. Brit, I'm sure we are going to hear your voice again soon. Thank you very much for joining us.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.